¿Qué pasa, campeones? Welcome to another Churros y Tácticas podcast, Tuesday, April 22nd. Feliz cumpleaños, Lorenzo, my boy. He's turning 10 years old, a decade since Barça last won the Champions League as well. Will he be able to see it, not for a first, but second time in his life? As a 10-year-old, it will be quite something. I'm getting too ahead of myself because first, it's Judgment Week for both Barça and Madrid. Let's go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another show. Welcome to another Churros. This one coming to you live in the flesh for all of y'alls. I know you've missed us. For all of you joining us from Patreon, welcome back once again. I hope you enjoyed the last episode that we put out on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. The action doesn't stop there, folks. So if you aren't a member yet, I suggest you go ahead and sign up because tiers are changing soon. There are changes coming, things moving in the background. Taking my time with it to introduce the changes. Don't hope to shock you all. But that being said, that's for the patrons. For all of you watching us here on the YouTubes, welcome. Welcome back to another week. Kian, what a week we have in store, my friend. I said in the intro, Judgment Week for both Barça and Madrid. And I truly stand by those words. Coming off the back of two wins with narrow margins, both for Los Blancos and the Blaugranas. A lot happened over the weekend. Kian, we got a lot to get through, my friend. How is you?
You don't actually think that this is still a title race, do you?
Come on, man. Stop it. I saw how happy you guys were with that 1-0 win over Athletic Club. And rightfully so. That was a big win.
I mean, happy in the sense, Fede Valverde was happy, the team was happy.
That was a cracking goal, man.
It was a great goal. We don't have much to cheer about this season. Part of me felt like, oh man, are we the new Barca? We're just celebrating these non trophies.
I think. Stop.
Well, look, I think Real Madrid played well in that game, which was nice to see because Real Madrid generally don't play well in the 2024-2025 season. It was a good, like you said, a good response, albeit against a very watered down Athletic Club team who was playing their B team. They're looking ahead to their final. And so there's all those things. But, it was nice to see the team play well and show some heart, and Fede obviously bangers only. But
Listen, stop. You need to get off of this depression wagon and start getting a little bit exciting, okay?
It's the end of the season,
bro. It's the end of the season.
Emo. Okay? I like it. I'm kind of like, I've never really been in a depressive phase in my life, so I'm kind of leaning into this one. I'm leaning into it. It feels like 2009 really, all over again.
You're soaking it up. Get out of this funk, for crying out loud. You have a culé like trying to beat sense into you. It's been dragging on too long now. I don't want to make any more videos, put out videos of depressive Kian Madridista perspectives. No, hey, it's I-Liga. You rightfully said I-Liga. There was a great reaction from Real Madrid, one that I didn't expect. When I saw the lineups of Athletic Club, it was a little bit like, okay, well, they're going to win. It turned out to be a hard-fought battle. Madrid rightfully won. I thought there were some performances that I want to get into as well that I think stood out. But the bigger picture, Kian, is that La Liga mathematically is still on. That's a fact. We have a build-up going on right now. We're starting it today, Kian, for a Clásico in the Copa. Now, regardless of whether you think you can win, your chances, your odds, and regardless of what you think of the Copa, it's still a trophy. Remember how the Super Copa felt when you lost that one. It was ugly. It was bad. It didn't make you feel good. Well, now here's a chance for also Ancelotti. Nothing official, nothing has been said, but you see now the rumors flying more and more, of course, of his replacement. that I think is inevitable. That's not information, of course, purely opinion, not a hot take neither. But there are those that say that Ancelotti is really excited to see how his last year of his contract next season. I'm like, well,
Uh,
okay,
yeah, but like Carlo will not leave
he will not
unless
leave.
he is sacked.
Hmm. Right.
Carlo, this is Carlo's dream gig, and I don't blame him. If I was
Sure.
coaching
Exactly.
Real Madrid, I would
You don't want
stay
to leave then.
forever, even if I relegated to the team to like Division Z.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'd be
Hmm.
like, you got to kick me out. I'm not leaving this place. So
Right.
I get it. I don't blame him at all for that.
Not at all.
I gotta,
So all this to say, though, sorry, Kian, I'll just finish making my point. All this to say, que hay Liga, hay Copa, especially for Ancelotti, if he wants to leave, winning his last trophy, to have show face, have something to celebrate with balloons, perhaps, and and of course, for Barca, on the flip side, it's the complete, in that regard, the same. La Liga, there's everything to play for. The triplete talk, the Copa, and the fact that we're heading into not this week, but next week into the semifinals of the Champions League with good momentum, hopefully against an Inter side that are very, very serious and will be very difficult. Sorry, I'm gonna quickly say your word. Change the chair because I don't like all the squeaking. So give me one.
well, can you still hear me? Okay. I gotta hand it to you. You out of nowhere, and I think this was on the one of our patron episodes a couple weeks ago. Out of nowhere, you said Real Madrid are going to sign Jurgen Klopp, and I didn't believe you, and I still don't think that's going to happen. To be clear, but you brought it up out of nowhere, and I said I haven't heard anything, and you said I have a very, very reliable source, and I cannot reveal who it is, but it's happening. Lo and behold, the next day, the papers were filled with Jurgen Klopp discussion, and it's been about a week of Jurgen Klopp talk, and I still don't think it's going to happen. I think the Bayer Leverkusen CEO kind of dropped a bomb yesterday. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
So he said that Xabi Alonso does not have a clause to leave for Real Madrid, but when the day comes that the club of his dreams want him, we are not going to hold him here against his will, and we will work with him.
Okay.
And it kind of felt like, yeah, this seems inevitable this summer that this will happen. So I do feel like my question is more about the timeline of it all. There are like real conversations to be had, and I don't think this is going to happen. But again, I'm one of those people that love being wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will clip it myself and say and celebrate. And if Real Madrid win the double this season, there are real conversations to be had of like, okay, well, hold on, maybe he should stay. To be clear, I don't think that's going to happen for a lot of reasons that I feel like I've just hammered you guys with already this season. I wanted to share this with you. I had a dream last night. And I don't share my dreams too often because
nor do we want you to. Behave yourself.
They're not rated properly for this podcast. But I did have a dream last night that I can share. And in the dream, Real Madrid beat Barca in the Copa del Rey final. And then won the League Clásico. Barca dropped points, choked it out, and then Real Madrid won the league and the Copa, and then Inter just laid the smackdown on Barca.
Right. So worst case scenario for any culé.
And then my son Luca was like trying to figure out what the commotion in the middle of the night was. He saw me like levitating to the sky, like having a possessed, like spiritual experience. He was like, "What's going on?" He had to pull me back down. And then, of course, none of that was true. But hey, man, it was the best 10 seconds of my life.
The dream, is that true at least?
Yeah.
Well, that is scary enough. I mean, that's a scary ass fucking dream. I don't like that dream whatsoever. And the fact that you have these visions.
True, just to be clear.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But still, I don't like that vision. It is the most nightmarish of visions for any culé. But listen, my friend, I wanna break it down a little bit because look, the emotional stakes are really very high, and I wanna do my best to get you out of this funk, out of your chair, not have this slumped version of Keon. Sit straight, stay in the middle of the frame as much as possible, so the YouTube clips come out nice. There you go. Yeah, you want to keep these Stefano next to you on your left, right shoulder. All right. La Liga is still at play. Copa del Rey is still at play. We need to start doing build up towards the Copa del Rey because we're only going to have one episode, if not. And for all of yous cheap asses watching this on the free will not get the pre Copa stuff. So I want to get through that. But let's start with the very first point. Talk about what happened over the weekend. It was a hard fought win for both teams, very different games. Did you catch the Barça Celta?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Right. So, well, why don't we start there or move on to that? What did you think of that game?
Well,
Knowing as well, knowing everything that I've been telling you, the fact that the form has been of late has been worrying. At the
yeah.
very least, you can see now, you can say that Barca's defense is very shaky at the moment. There needs to be very stern words and also self-critical looks from the likes of Inigo, Kubarsi, Kunde, all the guys. Gerard Martin, obviously now filling in the boots for Valde, but still, Frankie defensively was quite shocking. Culprit really of one of the goals of Borja Iglesias, ex-Español Perico, of course, who had a great game, the game of his life, but I wonder, like, we shouldn't have had to have been in that position to again make this miracle remontada happen. And for all the good things that we can say offensively, and there's a lot of players to praise, this defense has really got me worried now.
Well, I have a few thoughts. My first thought is that Celta should be proud. I think they played a hell of a game. Borja Iglesias. It sucks that he'll have to tell his grandchildren he scored a hat trick against Barca in a game that they lost.
It's like Girassi for Dortmund as well last week, yeah.
Right. And I also, and I mean, I'm not surprised that Celta would play well against Barca if it's at Balaidos, but this was, in the Montjuic, and that's not as easy to do with Celta, obviously, without their own fans there. So when it was 3-1, I thought I didn't care about like really what Borja Iglesias or Celta were doing. I was just thinking, I was like, yes, this now if Inter can capitalize on this, because Inter is gonna, you upgrade all these players, and that's what Inter is. Inter are a better version of all these teams who can't really exploit Barca, because Inter are just surgical, defensively well drilled, and good on the counterattack, and very competent team. So I just thought more about Inter, like, okay, this is Inter can really, really take advantage of this, and maybe some, and in a way that other teams can't. But the other thing to keep in mind here is that over and over again this season, Barca have found themselves in a hole in the league, or in other games, not just in the league, and they've found a way to come back. And this is why this version of Barca is set apart from previous versions, and why this version of Barca is the best since Messi left, because of the mentality and what Flick has done to reverse the mentality of the team. And I think you have to be okay with Barca, having dips in form, because despite them not playing as well as they were like a month or two ago, their heads are screwed in straight. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say there, but you know what I mean. Is that a saying? What's the saying? Their heads are on right. You know what I'm talking about. But their heads are on right, and they are mentally, more drilled than I ever seen them. Since Messi. I mean, you can argue in those Messi years that team was mentally fragile. So this is what I think sets them apart from previous iterations of Barca.
The latter stage, I mean, the final stage of Messi, definitely, but not in the hot streak phase.
Well,
bro.
take your pick. I mean,
Like demolishing our opposition.
Here, so it could be.
Okay, yeah, sure. Only the titles back that prove that hugely incorrect, but okay. Well, it's funny that you say that. Not that messy part, of course, but all the rest. Because yeah, I think I have one key word written down here, and it's the psyche. It's the psychological battle for me now starts with, and I said it as well in the opening kind of monologue before the Dortmund game. I said this game, it's all about the psychology. Forget tactics, forget technique, forget everything kind of what the teams have learned up until this point. I'm now referring back to this phase, not so much the game against Dortmund, but it's kind of like, we know that Barca are better than Celta. I think it's more up here now. It's kind of like everybody's tired, not just Barca, but all teams are tired. It's the final phase of the season. How mentally tough are you to continue to push forward, to be concentrated, to not slip up, to not have little silly mistakes cost you goals that then force you to mount a comeback? And if you do find yourself in that situation, how mentally strong are you to actually make that comeback happen? And in that regard, I mean, for me, one player personifies that best. And I'm happy that he's back because we missed him in Barca's case, and that's Rafinha. I think if it weren't for Rafinha in this game, maybe we would have drawn, but I don't think we would have won. And I'm not only saying that because he stepped up to take the penalty, deep into injury time. But I say that because of his attitude. And in the same breath, in the same sentence, in the same line, I have to talk about Lamine Yamal, who again stepped up huge, who was brilliant. I have to talk about Dani Olmo, who is, and I had to double check, but I thought it would be a goal per game, but it's actually 0.8 goals per game for all the games that he has started in. And even though he actually didn't start this game, did he? No, he did.
Are you talking about Olmo?
Yeah, Dani Olmo, yeah. I'll double check that real quick. But the importance of Dani Olmo for this Barca side, I think, cannot be understated. Obviously, Pedri. But all this to say, mentally, I like where some of these players are at, but I worry in the same line, where other players are at. Because defensively, for all the praise that we have been rightfully, throwing Inigo Martinez way right now, and Cubarsí as well, it's looking kind of shaky. It's looking kind of shaky, man. Dortmund put 3 past us. We didn't look. We looked a shell of ourselves. Celta, same, más de lo mismo, more of the same. Massive defensive mistakes. Borja Iglesias was having the time of his life on 1v1 situations with Szczesny. That offensive line at this point, there was a little clip. There was a clip going around of, again, this is Gerard Martin, who I can't really fault for anything, but trying to be disciplined and trying to stay in that defensive high line, making sure that he was in sync with the players. And it looked, I don't expect them to all be in sync. Like, what do you call a group of birds? A school of birds? No, it's a school of fish, isn't it? Flock of birds. Thank you. But at this point in the season, if you're not in sync, if you're not in line, like this team was at the beginning of the season and basically the whole of 2025 up until this last international break, it can cost us trophies now, and it can cost the team dearly. And that, quite frankly, I sound like a broken record. It's got me worried, especially knowing the sides that we are facing next. Mallorca tonight for starters. There's a Mallorca game tonight, and Mallorca that is very good. No. This is a Mallorca game that is playing for Europe. They are one spot away from cracking and finishing, or I mean, still, what is it? 6 match days left, but they're 7th. 6th would crack them into a place in the European competition. That should not be taken lightly by Mallorca, neither, of course, by Barça. After that, it's the Copa against a Real Madrid side who, well, we know how dangerous they are. Individually, brilliant players that can exploit the highline for sure. And then after that, it's freaking Inter. No introduction needed. 3 goals conceded and an amazing counter-attacking team led by Lautaro and Thuram. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has always been like if the blueprint to beat Barca is something that Inter have, and I think a lot of teams don't have that. Like Real Madrid had it in theory, but they in only in theory and not in action because in action the defense couldn't stay compact and the transition was way worse than we had predicted it to be with Vinny and Mbappe and
I
Jude.
gotta take this.
Take it. What is it? A phone call?
No, it's my son's birthday. It's a package.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, so I think it'd be really interesting to see that Inter game, and I think they have the blueprint to do it because the one thing about Barca, and this is one of the criticism that I've had of them in the European stage for many years, is that there is you know exactly what they're gonna do. You know exactly how they're gonna approach the game. You know that the offside trap is not gonna go anywhere. You know they're not gonna roll up with, a shock curveball the way they play. You know that they're going to try to hold the high line in the offside trap. They're going to try to put out fires. They're going to rely on excellent timing of the back line. And, if fatigue sits, kicks in and maybe like one or two timed runs, Inter time their runs and Barca mistime their offside trap, Inter are surgical enough that even if they get a couple of those, they can break free and they can score and capitalize. And of course, they have the defensive side of things, something that like teams that Real Madrid don't have, for example, and Atletico in theory have, but they're not as surgical in transition, against this Barca counter press. And even still, they gave Barca a ton of problems in the league and the cup. So I think Inter are interesting because they have the two-way balance that is necessary that teams like Real Madrid don't have, for example. So I'm intrigued. Now, having said that, sometimes you can know all these things, and Lamine Yamal and Rafinha have been so good that it won't matter, and they'll put goals against you, so it doesn't really matter in that sense. But yeah, I honestly think the Champions League is interesting because I think you could definitely argue that these are the 4 best informed teams in the world right now, and that's you don't always get that in the Champions League semifinals. So I think it'll be really interesting either way. I did have to ask you this, Diego. Do you think Rafinha should have still been on the field by the time he took his penalty at the end?
You want to go into controversy?
I just wanted to get your honest opinion. Like, should he have still been on the field?
I don't think that was a. Well, it would have been a second yellow.
Yeah.
For a little shove. Ask me something else. Ask me if Bellingham deserved to get a penalty. No. Ask me if he deserved to get a penalty. I don't think Rafinha should have been sent off. Yeah, if he deserved to.
When did
Bellingham? He was on the
get a
receiving end of a non-penalty call. No, I saw that. I think it was Bellingham. Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the game against Athletic Club, Bellingham had an appeal for a penalty.
What
I
does
think
that
it
have
was
to do with
Bellingham.
what I'm asking you? I don't
Because
remember that.
it's like a non-topic. This is no, he shouldn't have been sent off.
Why is it not a non-topic? Because if he shouldn't have been on the field, then you're not winning that game.
I just said I don't think he should have been sent off.
Okay. So my follow-up question would be, given that you have been annoyed with the antics of Neymar at your club in the past, do you feel like Rafinha is starting to push the boundaries of what
No.
you think should be seen by a Barca player on the field? Do you think he's reaching that level slowly?
No, not even close. Not even remotely close. I think
you're
he's
okay with
still a leader that leads by example. I think that there has been times where Rafinha has definitely shown a side that I condemned publicly. For example, in prior seasons when Xavi would take him off in his view prematurely, or mm, yeah, mainly in those kind of situations, really. And also, like since the international break, Rafinha has just not been himself, and he vents those frustrations sometimes in a certain type of way. But to compare him now with a Neymar or Vinny, not even close.
Okay. I
Not
just
even
wanted to get your
close.
honest assessment, and I know you're being 100% honest about it. So I'm just curious. Okay. Listen, man. I just think like everything right now points to Barca winning everything. And I think I told you this on the patron only episode last week. No one in the league is good enough to stop Barca, whether it's in the Copa or the league. But the only team I think in the world that's good enough to do that is Inter and PSG and Arsenal. But that's it. So I think you can like sleep comfortably knowing that you have these two domestic competitions in the bag. And let's be honest, the Champions League, as
No,
much as it's
come
coveted,
on. Did
it's
you
not an
talk
easy
at all?
trophy to win.
Did you talk at all about the build up towards the Copa? I want to talk a little bit more about this because you are either mm, unaware or willingly ignoring, or just straight not trying to jinx or jinx. I don't know, Kian mental mind games going on here. But the fact of the matter is that right now Barca's defense is looking very shaky. I've made that point. I will add to that point the fact that Gerard Martin, we're not playing with Alejandro Balde. Gerard Martin is an area, the left flank, the left back position is an area that Madrid can exploit. Uh, yes, Flick has beaten Angelotti twice already, but in those two games, Lewandowski was of huge importance as well. Our top goal scorer, Europe's top goal scorer, will be out for at least the Copa final. They say 3 weeks, up to 3 weeks. So we'll maybe he'll be there for the return leg, or the away leg rather, against Inter. He'll definitely miss the first leg. He'll definitely miss the Copa final. Um, so for me, this Copa final is going to be about Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Pedri versus the entire Real Madrid left flank, like that whole left side business that you guys have got going on there. This is it's up for grabs for me, really.
It's not. It's not. I can't help but laugh. This couple things. Barca,
Did you not like what you saw from Vinny? Mind you, yes, of course, it was without Mbappe, and that's a whole talking point in and of itself. The
sure.
fact that Vinny kind of came to his own once again in the absence of an Mbappe, but
Yeah, I love what
he
I saw
played a
from
good game. Yeah.
I thought Vinny was great against Athletic. Vinny's not the issue. And I again like um Alvaro Benito, who I really like his analysis. Um
Who?
Alvaro
Oh, Alvaro
Benito.
Benito. Yeah, 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 yeah.
He was saying that like you can't blame any individual player for this mess. Like you can't blame Vinny or Mbappe. Like there's a lot going on here. And that's where I basically am. Like, I don't blame anyone. I don't blame Vinny. I don't blame Mbappe. I think it's fair to that everyone needs to step up, not just those two. And also, there is just kind of like this collective thing happening where the team hasn't been able to find the right two-way balance. And so, as great as Vinny was against Athletic, and that it's good that we also play tomorrow, by the way. So I can't really jump the gun and talk about momentum heading into the Clásico because we still have to play a game. So I don't know necessarily where the momentum will be.
You're playing who?
Getafe.
Villarreal. Oh, Getafe, the Madrid. Okay, not necessarily
And you know
easy
what
neither.
it's like playing against
Yeah,
Getafe. So
yeah.
they know how to get into our heads too and drive us nuts.
It's a derby. Yeah, and it's a low block. It's Bordalas ball. It's awful. Yeah.
Borderless ball, it's awful. So
Mm.
where was I going with this? So you mentioned, well, Barca are not defending as well, but you have to rely on two things. You have to rely on Real Madrid being able to capitalize on that in transition, and you also have to rely on Real Madrid to shut out Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. And I know Lewandowski's injured, but Ferran is in good form. He's going to
He's
start,
very
right?
good.
He'll start in that Lewandowski slot. It's pretty
Yeah.
no brainer. So again, I don't mean to sit here and just be like, and just like you put out like really thoughtful analysis, and I just kind of shut it down with a laugh and said there's no chance. But that's genuinely how I feel right now. And so unless that changes, then it changes. And also there's question marks that you know have to be asked, and they're not easy questions. And you alluded to it, like, this game was without Mbappe. And I think that is, and I think people have skewed it because Real Madrid won that game and they played well, that it's Mbappe's fault now, which is not the case. And I think the bigger discussion is like anytime Real Madrid field all three of Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Mbappe together, it's been poor defensively, and there's a lack of synergy between them. And then you also take out the midfielder that can help link up with these guys and feed these guys. And Ancelotti has seen Rodrigo as just as indispensable as Vinny and Mbappe this year. And I think the insistence on playing all three of them every game has hurt us. And I think we have enough sample size now to see that.
Mm.
So if you're going to kind of emulate what you saw in terms of the lineup against Athletic, and Mbappe is going to start that game, you have to put Mbappe and Vinny up top. And I think you have to drop Rodrigo. And obviously, like, should we put Camavinga back at left back? That's another big question because he played there against Athletic yesterday and he was phenomenal. And he played against Barca twice this year. One of them in the first game at the Bernabeu, the 4-0. He actually was our only good player in the first half. And then he came off in the second half and the team just fell apart. Obviously, in the Super Cup in Saudi, he was horrendous. and so you have to wonder what version of Camavinga you're going to get. We have a Clásico in the Montjuic where Camavinga played left back and actually shut down Rafinha. Mind you, Rafinha's improved way, a lot since then. Obviously, he's a better player now, and Camavinga has regressed a little bit this year. So you need a great version of Camavinga, and I think you should roll the dice and put him at left back again. Because I just don't trust Fran Garcia at this point. I really don't. And that Saudi Super Cup, don't forget Lucas Vazquez, because that's not if I had to like craft like one player, like if someone told me like, hey, we're facing Rafinha, I want you to go into FIFA create a player mode and create the guy who is for sure not going to stop Rafinha, I would just create Lucas Vazquez with all due respect. So if he's going to play right back, we're in trouble. You cannot make those mistakes. So this is also big. These are all questions that Carlo will have to answer, and we'll have to see how much he's learned from those two previous Clásicos. So you gotta understand where the skepticism comes from, based on what you've seen of Real Madrid and Barcelona this season.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I mean, obviously, again, it's true that Ancelotti has so far been beaten, excuse me, by Hansi Flick and convincingly. But it also makes you wonder, what lessons will he have drawn from that? What will he have learned? Surely something. All this rhetoric, all these people, I see them online, and I get the disappointment and I get the rage, the typical fanatismo, right? Like fanaticism towards the manager for not reacting. And it's, Ancelotti out and this, that. I've been through it myself. And I think for good reason for the coaches that I wanted out in the past as well. But after 2 games, he will have learned something. And on top of that, again, I will say that it's a final. It's against a very talented side. And anything can happen in the final. It's just too unpredictable for me. I understand as well the psyche, the psychology of walking into this final as a Madridista. You setting yourself up for disappointment, because then the hurt will be less, right? You hope at least like that it won't hurt as much. Whereas like a win, you're like, oh well, then I'll take that. Like holy shit, it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, but you can't fake it. Like I'm not faking this, you know. So
Mm,
I can't help what I feel. It's not like an intentional. I'm going to just expect nothing. I genuinely just I'm extremely skeptical based on what we've seen. Obviously, like the other thing is, it doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter how Madridistas feel. It matters what the players are feeling. It
mm,
matters what the players' confidence level is, and it matters what tactical adjustments they've made. We had no tactical adjustments from Classico 1 to Classico 2. We had no tactical adjustments from Arsenal leg 1 to Arsenal leg 2. We just basically had to react to what the opponent was doing to us. You know, against
mm.
Arsenal, like we had no solution. So throw in Rudiger as a center forward and start and give the ball to Lucas Vasquez and start crossing. Um, Against Barca in the second Classico, we completely regressed in that game from the first Classico. You know,
Yeah,
I thought we were going to build on that because, you know, there was all this talk about Real Madrid are better than they were in October and Barcelona are not as good. And then that happened. So there's also
yeah,
like another thing, you know, I you can feel it, I think, that there is also just an urgency that Barca come out with against
yeah.
Real Madrid that Real Madrid don't match, I feel
Oh,
like,
okay.
almost ever.
Mm, mm.
And
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I see that. I mean, and I would say that you see that also in games where we're losing, like over the weekend, or against. We didn't really see it against Dortmund. That was quite shocking to see that, because so far, every time that this team has been pushed up against the ropes, it's the mental resilience, if you will, that this team has shown, right? That has pushed them over the edge. And that's where I think that from a psychological perspective, we've got the edge, because Madrid, you guys are coming off of winning. Shit. Barca, we have everything to prove and to fight for, right? Is what we spoke about as well in depth, or a little bit more detail over on patreon.com/churros y tácticas. Go subscribe if you haven't already, motherfucker. What the fuck you waiting for? But like and that's good. Like I take comfort at that in that, right? I take a lot of comfort in knowing that Rafinha is playing his heart out, that Lamine Yamal is shows a rare amount of maturity at the age of 17, that where in these kind of moments he's like, he wants the ball, right? He doesn't shy away from the occasion, knowing that Pedri, if you put him on, he guarantees to take control over the ball and dictate the tempo. Dani Olmo, who pretty much scores a goal every time he comes on, and just has an impact, is an important player for this team, offensively speaking. So even if we were to go down a goal to nil, 2 goals to nil in the final, no, I was going to say hypothetical final, in the final. No, it is not hypothetical, but in that hypothetical situation, at least I will know that this team is not going to give up without a fight.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure. Like there's no question that there is no lead that's safe against Barca, not this year. So
Mm.
you can go up 2-0, you can even go up 3-0, and you really, really have
Look
to.
at Atletico for crying out loud. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like now, mind you, remember how Real Madrid do approach a lot of these games and a lot of these Clásicos. They will be very, very conservative. You know, I think part of the reason why we liked the second half against Athletic was because if you draw that game, the league is over. And you could argue the league is over now, but it's like it would have truly been over had you not won that game. So there was a sense that like if you don't score here in the second half and it ends 0-0, you're done. It's not, you're not coming back from this. So because of that, we just piled it on and piled it on and piled it on. And at one point you had like 5 attackers on the field. Fede is basically playing as like a sixth attacker. And
He had that shot before his goal as well. That was wicked. I mean, that
oh man,
was.
just Fede shots just, and that's the other
Oh.
thing. Like I've been crying out for Fede to get involved in the offense more all season, and he's just been doing too much defensively for that to even be entertained. So it was nice to see Fede get up the field because anytime he does, he's hard to stop in that situation. But part of the reason why we did enjoy that second half was because we had no choice but to like pile it on, and you know, lucky for us, Athletic provided zero threat on the counterattack. And obviously,
Yeah.
if you're in that situation against Barcelona, all of a sudden, these athletic B team players, although, to be fair, they did bring on Iñaki and Sunset in the second half. All of a
Right.
sudden, those players turn into Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, right? So that's going to be much harder to defend.
Mhm.
The other thing is Real Madrid, if they go up a goal or two in the Clasico, they do tend to become extra conservative. And so I don't know, man. There's part of me that I can tell you for sure actually that between Thursday and Saturday, so the
10
Wednesday,
o'clock kickoff, man. It's ridiculous. My kids are like dying to watch the game.
well, that's life,
Sorry.
man.
Anyway, that go
That's
on.
life. Tell your
Yeah.
kids to suck it up and
Oh
drink
no,
some
they will
coffee
stay there.
and have a
They will.
brewski
Of
and
course. No,
yeah.
for me, no problem.
No,
Anyway, the
no,
point you were gonna make.
yeah. So please don't give your kids brewski.
Brewski's for Papa. Don't worry.
From Thursday to Saturday, as we get closer to Saturday, this is I'm gonna tell you my journey from Thursday to Saturday. And I bet you every Real Madrid fan listening to this is gonna be like, that's me. It's gonna be the Leo DiCaprio like point at the TV. That's me. Thursday morning, I'm gonna be like, you know what? Maybe we can do it. Friday, it's gonna be like, yeah, you know what? I'm feeling good about it. I think given look how Barca are shaky with this high line, I think Mbappe and Vinny are gonna raise their game. They're gonna take advantage. They're gonna press Frankie De Jong, who's looks a little bit vulnerable. We're gonna take advantage of that high line. Mbappe is gonna score 1 or 2 goals. He's gonna time his runs. And then Saturday, you're gonna be like, yes, this is the day. This is what Real Madrid do: play shit all season, and just when Barca think they have their number, out of nowhere we come out and we win the Copa. We rattle their confidence. They buckle in the league, in the Champions League, and then that game's gonna start, and Barca are just going to start pressing and
You'll
counter
score the
pressing.
first goal. Mbappe will score.
Yeah, wait. And then Barca will start pressing, and we start giving the ball away. Rudiger's like struggling with his progressive passing. Vasquez is getting pressed, and then Camavinga picks up a yellow card, and it's just like, oh yeah, shit! I just remembered. This is why I didn't believe we were going to win this game. And then, but the thing is, if we do believe that we're going to win that Copa final, it's the same reason we believed or didn't believe in my case, but it was the same reason a lot of Madridistas believed that they could come back against Arsenal. It was based on past and aura and not based on what we've seen. So I feel the exact same way basically. Now the one minor difference is that we don't have to make a comeback against you guys in the final as of now. It's one leg. Now, mind you, if you're down 2-3-0 at halftime, that's a different story. But yes.
We shall see, my friend. We shall see.
Oh my God, it's almost 7. How did that happen?
It's almost 7. I know you had to bounce 5 minutes before, so we gotta be slowly but surely signing off, I suppose. My mission on this podcast was to see if I could get you up from off your seat and elevate it a little bit. It looked like in the end you were kind of bringing yourself up, but you've actually slumped now deeper.
I can
Listen,
pull my chair up a little bit. There we
I
go.
think what I want to say, and these can be the closing remarks, or if you have more time, we can keep going. Maybe I will keep going a little bit longer on
Sure.
the old trusty D spot, but there's a lot at stake. I know my son is coming. It's birthday time. Sorry, they're at the door. There's a lot at stake, and there's a lot at stake for both teams. And you're looking at a doblete in the making. That is our nearest, say, possible goal that we can reach. And I say we, I mean that for both teams. I mean that for your beloved Blancos and my dearly beloved Blaugranas, because it's Copa on Saturday, and then in 2 weeks' time it is Clásico, which could or could not be a league decider. It's a huge match for depending on how the results will go from now, of course, until when is that game played? I think it's May 11th.
Yeah.
You know, there's Mallorca in the case of Barça. Well, I don't need to mention, and of course, this little elephant in the room, the semifinal of the Champions League. So there's a lot at stake. A little bit more for Barça, given the fact that we still have the Champions League at play. But maybe you could argue then, therefore, everything that Madrid still has to play for, they have to take that with even more seriousness. I'll say this, and I said it, I hinted towards it last time on Thursday on Patreon. Regardless of whether we go trophyless, we win 1-2 el triplete, this season for me has already been successful. The fact that I can sit here and have this conversation with you is exactly what I asked for. If you rewind the tape to the beginning of the season, when you asked, what are your expectations? And that was, come this time, to be in the running and compete for these trophies. Flick has elevated this team, yes or yes, from last year. And this project must be protected and needs to be, yes or yes, given continuity. Even if things go south and we end up trophyless, it's got my full support.
Well, if you go trophyless, you would still consider this a success?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely. This
is small
vastly been a better season.
This is small club.
This has vastly been a better season than last season. This has been a thrill. I have not been thrilled about football, watching my team Barça play football this much, since too long. Even you could argue from the time when with Xavi we ended up winning La Liga. This football is more exciting. This team is more exciting. The whole aura, the vibe around it, it makes me rush to the TV. That wasn't the case.
But if you guys go trophyless, that aura is going to go down the drain.
I'm not giving up.
Clear, I don't think that's going to happen, but
I'm staying true to my word.
You would be happy with a trophyless season is crazy to me.
Not happy. I would deem it a success. I would say this is the right way forward. We need little tweak.
This is like
but nothing needs to be changed.
Fan talking. No, we made
absolutely not. A Getafe fan would be happy, like a Madrid fan, just winning by any means, sitting back on a low block and just counterattack. And inshallah, let's see what happens.
Because
this
what matters the most.
No, it doesn't. This is the way forward. Playing like this, we will win much more than we will lose. I am 100% certain about that.
We'll see.
And again, it's what I said at the beginning of the season.
I think this is a successful Barca season, but it would be crazy to call it successful if you.
So if you were Laporta, you would say, "Sorry, Flick, you choked, buddy.
No,
get out."
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it wouldn't be successful. I'm saying you gotta just come back next year and improve, because you're even saying yourself, like, the past month Barca haven't been that good. You had that spell in November. Yeah, you had a lot of great football, and in my opinion, you've been playing the best football on the entire planet. But if in the end you have nothing to show for it, that can't be a success, man. Come on.
You cannot sit here and just feel because you've been playing the best football on the planet, taking your words, then therefore I automatically am entitled to win these titles, these trophies. And if not, then that's
play the good football when it matters the most, which is now, essentially.
Yeah, but the fact that we are even able to see these players, but the fact that we're even able to see these players and talk about this team playing the best football on the planet, that's a success. That has to be deemed a success. That cannot be deemed as a failure. That's no reason to pull the plug on a project and say, it didn't work.
I never said pull the plug if you don't win the trophies, but you got to come back better next year if that happens.
Of course.
That would be humiliating if that happened.
And you would have to inspire to constantly improve. I mean, that's what life is all about. We should all aspire to be a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
So don't get it twisted. Do I in the end measure success according to trophies won? That is the eternal debate that we continue to have here on Churros. And I'm not saying that trophies are not a reflection of the success. That is the ultimate goal. But I think the process and working towards that, there are, if you're in the contention in the running consistently, then that has to be deemed as well success.
I mean, it's just that you and I have been doing this podcast and we've been fans for so long that we know how quickly football can change. just when you think Real Madrid are headed one way and Barcelona are headed one way, it just flips. You think back to Real Madrid 2016-17, where Isco and Asensio were just destroying teams, picking everybody apart, and then you think about the way Barca were headed, and then Xavi came in, he won the league, but then he bounced to the Europa League. Real Madrid were heading off a cliff in 2019 when Cristiano left, and then it's just constantly changing. So just would not be surprised if next year it flips again and Real Madrid, through new managers and some upgrades, new ideas, they come back stronger, and people have this scouting report on Barca, and then there's some regression with Flick there. And if that happens and you come away with nothing from this season, I just think that's a disaster scenario. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I just think I that I fundamentally disagree with the ideologies and stuff that you have with regards to how football should be played. That's not a secret. But yeah,
But then, Kian, you know what my answer is? That means by that logic, following that reasoning, if Ancelotti ends up winning the double, then he should stay. He's great. He's amazing. He's the best.
Well, there's a case for it. I mean, I personally don't. I wouldn't personally if that.
Then
happened.
Everybody has to eat up those voids again. Ancelotti outs.
No, because process matters. Don't get me wrong. I think where you and I fundamentally disagree is that you care about style, and I don't care about style, but I do care about good football, and I think that's one thing. I don't want you to have that misconception of me. I care about good football. I don't care about style of football. And Real Madrid can play in a deep block if they want, as long as it's good. But Real Madrid right now are not playing good in a deep block or more attacking. So that process matters to me, and I don't care about the style in which they do it, because I had one of the best years of my life was seeing what Ancelotti and Real Madrid did in 2014 against Bayern. It was a masterful defensive shift, and just seeing
scoring goals in offside position.
I'm sorry?
Scoring goals in offside positions. That was very entertaining to watch, indeed.
What are you talking about, Diego?
Okay. Okay. All
right, I gotta go. I was supposed to go like seven
yes,
minutes.
I know you had to bounce. Listen, everybody here, you see that link in the bottom of your screens? Scrolling, it says patreon.com/churros y tácticas. Go ahead and sign up. Sign up while you still can. Tiers are going to change. We're in the midst of some big changes, ambitious ones that the patrons will enjoy, because we're going to get real up close and personal with y'alls. Oh, yes. OnlyFans? Just maybe. But yeah, go ahead and sign up to that, because that's really where we fry these churros, these puppies.
Yeah. I'd also say if you guys are on the fence about join now because you'll get grandfathered in before Diego releases the new tiers that are a little bit more at a higher price point. But if you're in, you're in. You don't need to pay more. You'll be upgraded. So go to patreon.com/churros y tácticas. One super chat at the buzzer. Taku says, Diego, I'm a cooler, and I disagree. I don't know what necessarily disagreeing about. It could be about football ideologies or the Rafinha red card. Or Rafinha's antics. I'm not entirely sure, but it could be any of those three things. But yeah.
Well, Taco, sign up to patreon.com and let your voice be heard. We get more, like I said, intimate and personal. Have conversations with our listeners. So express the point you were trying to make. Thank you for your donation. Much appreciated. And we'll catch y'alls on Thursday.
Peace out.
Peace.